Your mother has a pretty voice.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 horror film Pray for the Devil, a film that is directed by Daniel Stamm and it stars Jacqueline Byers, Virginia Madsen, Christian Navarro, Colin Salmon, Nicholas Ralph and Ben Cross. Now the film focuses on an exorcism school, I suppose. Now, this exorcism school is attended by priests. Colin Salmon is one of the lecturers there, one of the teachers. And there is a young willful nun called Sister Anne, who has come with a troubled past. And she is extremely interested in exorcism. She essentially nurses for many of the people, because there are people there almost like, it's like a hospital ward almost, with people there who supposedly are possessed. So she kind of acts as a nurse, but she wants to be more, but nuns aren't allowed to be trained up as exorcists. But she shows a real talent for it, and he's given the opportunity to train with the male priests. There was a young girl admitted called Natalie, I believe, who she has a deep connection with and really wants to help her. However, the demon within this young girl has other plans for Sister Anne. Right, what are my thoughts on Pray for the Devil? Well, here we are again, guys, I suppose. We have another possession film. They're becoming a bit of a cliche, I think, I suppose, possession films. I'm always interested in checking them out, especially if they've got, good production values behind them and they're cinema releases like this one. It usually means, that there is some level of quality there, which, can set them up to be pretty decent films. Or certainly make them watchable anyway. And I think this film, while I do think it is quite flawed at times, I also think there is, or there was, a lot of potential for this film as well. I think it unfortunately gets bogged down in a little bit of silliness, some poor CGI here and there, and leaning in heavily into very familiar horror tropes here and there as well, which I just don't think that helped the film. I think the idea of this exorcism school, is a good one. The fact that, there are people kind of there who are, possessed or, and the initial setup where they're almost like treated like patients, and some of them get cleansed and sent home. Some of them progress and get worse and get sent to the Vatican, so on and so forth. That setup was all pretty good, I think. I thought that was pretty, I was on board with that. But it just kind of didn't make it feel believable, because you've got these so-called potentially possessed people. It's almost like a hospital ward crossed with a prison ward, because they're behind locked doors. But you've got nuns, i.e. Sister Anne, going in there on her own, nursing them, giving bed baths to some, giving medication to others, so on and so forth. And you see a couple of times in this film why that is such a stupid idea. Because if they're possessed, they're clearly dangerous, and she's not been trained to protect herself like some of the male priests. So not only is she at risk, the other nuns are at risk who go in to nurse these people who are at this exorcism school. So it doesn't make sense when the Colin Salmon character kind of says to the Ben Cross character, who's like the head of the place, he's sort of saying, well, I'm going to train her up so she can protect herself a little bit. And I'm thinking, well, what about the other nurses? The other non-stroke nurses, what about them? Are they buggered? She's going to get a bit of training to look after herself, but everybody else has had it. So it kind of trips up its own plot threads, so to speak. It's got plenty of jump scares, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. There are plenty thrown in there for you if you like that sort of thing. I actually thought as well, I thought Jacqueline Byers was really quite good in the lead here. I mean, she carries an awful lot of this film, and I think she does a really, really good job. I think she plays this really strong, willful, gifted, and stubborn nun who, is very, very, independent and really wants to, modernize the whole thing. But she's got a real connection to this girl Natalie, and she won't give up and all this kind of stuff. And but I was quite captivated by her performance. I thought she was excellent in the role. I really, really did. And then I think by the end it all got a little bit silly. Like I say, it kind of falls off a cliff at the end and falls very firmly into horror trope territory. You know what I mean? You've got priests telling a little girl to go and find the best hiding spot possible, and she's found like within seconds. The ending I thought was remarkably silly. I mean, you get like a fairly satisfying conclusion to the film, and then you get like an epilogue, I suppose, that I don't think the film needed. Almost like it's setting it up for a sequel, and I thought it got a little bit silly, sort of thing. You know what I mean? One of the taglines is once you know the devil knows you, and it kind of runs with that at the end of the film. It's almost like she's a target, almost, the character at the end of the film. So while I don't think this is a terrible film, I think some of the reviews I've seen for this have been a little bit unfair. If you like fairly formulaic horror films with decent production values and good performances and some genuinely, I hesitate to say scary, but decent moments for a film like this is worth checking out, I think. I was reasonably entertained by this one. It's a fairly middling horror film, but it's well made, I think, even though it does make some missteps. It's one that I'll probably look to add to my collection, certainly, because I've seen a hell of a lot worse than this one. So if you get the opportunity, check out Pray for the Devil. I thought it was okay. So thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.